And we are live, I believe. Well, hello and welcome to Film Thoughts with Nathanael Molnár. I'm your aforementioned host, Nathanael Molnár, and this is the casual laid-back show where we just talk about whatever is on my mind in the world of movies and film. And this is the second time we're doing this show live, and I apologize for being a little bit late. I had said it was going to be 5:30. It's what, 5:40 right now, so I'm a few minutes late. I did delete the stream. I was having some issues with the mic right here. I got it figured out though. It's all set. And assuming that everything is sounding good and looking good, I think we are ready to go. So, just so you know, this is a live show, and there's going to be noise in the background and stuff like that I can't really control. So if it's a little bit noisy, if you hear some talking or some banging or whatever in the back, um, I apologize. I have no control over that. So, what this show is going to be like is there's a few things in the world of movie news that I would like to talk about. And so I'm going to talk about that. And then I'm going to take a look at the chat and see what is going on over there. So, if you do have any thoughts or comments or anything like that, leave your thoughts in the comments section in the live chat, and I'll get to it after I handle the show. So, starting off, and I have the show notes on my phone, so bear with me. The first thing I want to talk about is we got a new trailer for that for the Zac Efron Ted Bundy movie. What is it? Extremely wicked, incredibly vile, evil, some bullshit. They really should have changed the title. That is such a I get what they're trying to go for with the title. It's way too long. It's too complex. Nobody's going to remember it. Everyone's just going to think of it as the Ted Bundy movie with Zac Efron. Anyways, onto the actual trailer. I really like this trailer a lot. I think it set a really cool tone. It went for it was a very different tone. Like for a movie about a serial killer, you wouldn't expect a tone like this, but it's very kind of cheery almost. But I think that really works with who Ted Bundy was and the fact that he got so many people to believe that there was no way that he could be the serial killer because of his charm. And I think the trailer has equal charm to it. And I have seen some people online saying, "Oh, well, this movie is kind of romanticizing Ted Bundy," or they're kind of like denigrating the severity of what's going on by making this kind of cheery trailer." And I would disagree with that. I think it's all part of the persona that Ted Bundy created and crafted around him. The film is trying to build and craft a similar kind of persona around this film. And I think they're doing a really good job of capturing that through this trailer. And I really think I don't think there's going to be anything in this movie that actually says, "Hey, Ted Bundy, mass killer, he did nothing wrong. He's an all right guy." I don't think there's going to be anything like that in this movie. I, for one, am really looking forward to. So I think this movie is going to be pretty good. It's got a really good cast. I'm really excited to see Zac Efron do something so radically different from what he's done before. He is taking on such more of a dramatic role. I'm very interested to see what he does with the material given to him. And I think we're going to be talking about a great performance from Zac Efron. And from the people who've seen it at Sundance, they're raving about it. They're saying the movie is great. They're saying Zac Efron turns into the performance of his career. I am really excited to see this movie, and I really like that trailer a lot. Another big thing in the world of film is Aquaman. The story of Aquaman's box office keeps on going and developing. Aquaman has surpassed The Dark Knight Rises at the box office, which I don't know exactly how much it had made at the top of my head, but it was like 1.2, 1.3 billion, right around there, somewhere in that camp. Aquaman has surpassed The Dark Knight Rises, and Aquaman is now officially the highest grossing DC movie ever. Not just DCU, but any DC movie, beating out the Dark Knight films. And this is just incredible. This is incredible. Who would have thought Aquaman, of all things, Aquaman was going to become this big, massive, mega blockbuster hit like it is? Who would have thought? I never would have suspected. I never in a million years would have told you, you know what? Aquaman is not just going to be an $800 million movie, not just 900, not just a billion. It is going to be the biggest DCEU and DCU in general, biggest DC movie ever. I never would have suspected that. I don't think anyone would have suspected that. I don't think James Wan would have thought that. I don't think anyone at Warner Brothers or DC would have ever in a million years have thought about that. But you know what? I'm not a big Aquaman fan. I'm not a huge fan of the movie myself, but I can't help but be happy for Warner Brothers, be happy for DC, be happy for James Wan that their film is doing so well. It makes me a little bit nervous because now I'm afraid that DC and Warner Brothers is going to take the rest of the universe in this direction that Aquaman went in, that I'm not particularly big fan of, but I can't help but be happy for their success and that their movie is doing so well and that's resonating with people. So I am happy that they're having that success, and power to them for making a movie, investing all this money into making this movie that's making them a lot of money in return. Now, the title news of this episode, in the title, Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan, the man behind the aforementioned Dark Knight trilogy, which Aquaman just beat at the box office, the guy behind Memento, The Prestige, Inception, one of my favorite filmmakers, and probably one of the best living directors right now. Christopher Nolan has set his new film for 2020. It's coming out in July. I think it's July 17th, I believe, is the exact date. 2020. We don't know anything about it. We don't know what the title is. We don't know who's in the cast, although I'm going to take a wild guess and say Michael Caine is in there. We don't know anything about this movie at all at this point. We do know that it is being filmed with IMAX cameras. Now, maybe I missed it when I was reading about this. I don't know if it was saying that the entire movie was going to be filmed with IMAX cameras like Infinity War was, or if they were just saying, oh, a few scenes, like in Nolan's previous films, a few scenes will be in IMAX and the rest of it will just be regular cameras, and then it'll be put out in IMAX theaters. I don't know the specifics on that myself, and again, maybe I missed it when I was reading the article. But I can't wait for this. I can't wait for this. Nolan, like I said, one of the greatest living directors right now. I think he is my favorite director, just period, favorite director. I absolutely adore his movies. I think he is a masterful filmmaker, and anything that he does, the man shits out gold. I'll say that the man shits out gold. Now, I am not a huge fan of his latest outing, Dunkirk. That wasn't necessarily my cup of tea, but everybody went nuts for Dunkirk. And the Academy went nuts for Dunkirk. It got a whole bunch of Oscar nominations. Nolan finally got his Best Director nomination. Dunkirk got nominated for Best Picture, a whole bunch of awards. And while I'm not a huge fan of Dunkirk, I was happy that the Academy was recognizing Nolan for the brilliant, brilliant filmmaker that he is. So I can't wait for his next film. As to what it's going to be, I have no idea. It's not Bond. I know there's probably going to be some people going, oh, it's Bond, Bond, Bond. It's not Bond. We know that for sure. Cary Fukunaga is doing a Bond movie. It has nothing to do with Bond. I'm sure it's another original movie that Nolan's going to be doing. I am hoping that is a completely different genre than he has ever done before. I am hoping for maybe horror or a rom-com. I would love to see a Christopher Nolan rom-com. And I know there's a bunch of people who, when I say, oh yeah, I'd love to see Christopher Nolan do a romantic comedy, they were like, wait, what? A romantic comedy? Yes, a romantic comedy. Because I think the true sign of a filmmaker and really cementing someone as one of the greatest of all time is when that director can do so many different kinds of films. Christopher Nolan has proven he can do sci-fi fantastically. He can do comic book movies fantastically. He even showed with Dunkirk that he can do a great job with a war movie. But he has always been in this semi-bubble of the kinds of films that he makes. And I really want to see him like throw himself completely in the deep end and do something that he's never done before. I think horror would fall under that. I think a romantic comedy would fall under that, maybe even just a regular comedy, or maybe just more of a really personal drama of some sorts, or coming of age film. Regardless of what it ends up being, I just hope that it's something he hasn't done before. And even if he said, hey, this next one is going to be a giant sci-fi picture, if he were to say that, of course I'm going to be there opening night. Of course I'm going to be dying to see this movie. I'm going to be so excited to see it. Of course that's going to be the case. But I would prefer, from an artistic sense and standpoint, I would hope that he does something different than he's done before. I would hope that he tries something new because I would really like to see what Christopher Nolan does when he is trying to do something so completely different that he's never done before. So no details right now as to what his film will be. I'm sure since it's July 2020, since it's coming out next summer, I'm sure we're going to be hearing things very soon about what this film is actually going to be. I wouldn't be shocked if we start finding out who's in the cast and maybe a premise and everything like that in the next few months. So I'm sure we'll be hearing about it soon. But right now, we do not have all the details on that. So, and another bit of movie news, Morbius, which is the next film in this Spider-Man less Spider-Man universe, which was started off with Venom, which, if you follow this channel at all, I'm not a big Venom fan. Uh, but I'm kind of sort of interested in some of the other movies they have coming out. If it's done along the same lines as Venom, then I'm not going to be interested. But I think the prospect of a lot of these films is really interesting and could result in some good things. And the next one they have coming out is Morbius with Jared Leto as Morbius. And they just announced that from Doctor Who, and he's going to be in the upcoming Star Wars Episode 9. Matt Smith has joined Morbius, and I think that will be really interesting. And they set the movie for, and I have the date here, July 31st, 2020. Now, what's really interesting about this July date, it's a big prime summer release date. Venom had the luxury, I'll say, of coming out in October, which I think was a really good spot for it. And of course, it turned out to be a really good spot for it because the movie made fucking $800 million. Um, that October release date was perfect for Venom. And I think that was because it didn't put pressure on it to be a giant, big blockbuster summer movie. It didn't put any of those expectations on it, but rather it just kind of carried itself through the Halloween season because it did have some touches of horror to it. It helped out in those October, November, even early December months where it worked very well there. So now they have Morbius coming out in July. I think that's a little bit risky. And I think it's because nobody really knows Morbius. Less people know about Morbius than they did Venom. And not even a lot of people knew about Venom when Venom was coming out, about the character of Venom. Maybe they had seen Spider-Man 3 at some point, but not too many people really knew who Venom was outside of the bubble of the comic book movie fans and comic book fans in general. Less people know about Morbius, the character, than did Venom. So are they kind of screwing themselves over by putting it out in July? I don't know. Maybe they're thinking, oh, it's the very end of July, so they can capitalize on some of the August box office. And we don't see a ton of movies do super well in August. August has always kind of been half of a dead zone where they'll do, oh, well, this movie's coming up on 25 years. Let's put that back in theaters. Or you get some of the shitty comedies like Happy Time Murders came out in August. Christ. So maybe they're thinking that if they put it in at July 31st, they can capitalize on the August box office. But then why not just put it out in August? I don't know. And I also don't know off the top of my head what else is coming out in August. Maybe there is a giant big blockbuster in August that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head that would actually, pose a threat to Morbius. I'm not exactly sure. But looking at it on the surface, without looking at what's coming out in July or August immediately, I think it's a little bit too bold of them to go for a prime summer spot with Morbius, putting it out in the end of July. But maybe it'll end up working for them because nobody thought Venom was going to do the numbers that it did. And that movie made 800 million. So honestly, at this point, like anything's on the table as to what Morbius is going to do. I can't say because when I look at Morbius, my first thought is 600 million worldwide. That's my first thought. It's a movie about vampire. Nobody knows who this vampire is. It's got a couple of big names so far. The director isn't a huge profile director. 600 million, but who knows? After Venom, who knows what's going to happen? Now, the last thing I want to do before I take a look at the chat that we have a couple of people writing in. So there are some rumors, and these are rumors at this point. These aren't substantiated. We don't know for sure what is the case, but there are rumors going around that Dark Phoenix, X-Men Dark Phoenix, isn't turning out too hot. We've been hearing from a couple inside people, which gets into some of the trades and all that, that the movie's a mess. They don't know what to do. They have no idea what they're going to do with this film. They just have a disaster of a movie. And it seems like some industry people have actually used the word disaster, people who are actually attached to this film. This is disheartening, but not surprising. And again, this is rumors, so we're going to talk about it, but let's keep in mind that for all we know, the movie's fucking incredible and is going to win Best Picture. Not likely, not at all, but for all we know, the movie could be fantastic, and these are just rumors that came out of nowhere. But let's talk about it as if it's true for a second. This is disheartening, but not surprising. I love this X-Men franchise. Bryan Singer created, it started in 2000. Now we're 19 years into this, and it's coming to an end because Disney is going to be absorbing Fox. This is probably, aside from New Mutants, this is the final X-Men film. And final big X-Men film that has all these characters that we've been following since 2000. Charles Xavier, Magneto, Storm, all these. Granted, they're the first class versions of the characters and not the original, but still, it's the characters nonetheless. And this is the final time we are going to get to see any of these characters in this X-Men, this Fox version of the X-Men, before Disney gets a hold of the property. And so to hear that it could be a disaster, that could be one of the terrible movies that Fox has no idea what they're going to do with, they have no idea what they're going to do. To hear that is really saddening because I love that series, and for it to go out on such a sour note when we've had such great installments, like I really like the first X-Men. In this new age of comic book movies, it doesn't hold up as much, but for the time that it came out, great movie. X2, fantastic. X-Men First Class is excellent. X-Men Days Future Past, excellent. Logan, phenomenal. The Deadpool movies, excellent. Apocalypse is all right. X-Men The Last Stand, I can't really stand at all. X-Men Origins, So they've had some misses. But for the most part, these movies have been really good. And for them to go out on a low note with Dark Phoenix would be really disappointing. But it's not surprising, and here's why. They brought on Simon Kinberg to direct this movie, a man who has never directed anything before in his life, doing Dark Phoenix. And the man has been involved in the X-Men franchise for a long time as a producer and as a writer. Great. That's cool. And he's done a great job of shepherding these films and writing these films and producing these films. That's great. He's a gifted writer. He's a gifted producer. But he knows nothing about directing. And I've never understood, even from when they first announced that he was going to be directing Dark Phoenix, why would you bring on someone who has never directed anything to make their directorial debut with a giant 100 plus, probably more like 150 plus $1 million movie? What are you gaining from having him direct it? Now you might say, oh, well, they needed to keep it in the family and they weren't going to do Bryan Singer again and they couldn't get Matthew Vaughn. So the natural choice was they had to go with Simon Kinberg. No, you don't. Go out and get another talented, very gifted director to do this film, and you do it right. If you're a studio and you're trying to put your movie in the best position possible to succeed, why would you get Simon Kinberg, who has never directed anything in his life, to do this movie? Why would you not go out and get someone who at least, as I don't know, maybe did a short film or a music video or something where they had some directing experience? It just made no sense to me when they first announced it. And so now that we get to this part where we have this news, and it's rumors, but the news that Dark Phoenix is not turning out too great, disheartening, but not surprising, because they shot themselves in the foot immediately when they hired someone who had never directed a film before. And it's unfortunate, but they signed a death warrant when they signed him on. That is, if they had just gotten another director who had any sort of directing experience, maybe it would be salvageable, but it sounds like it's not. And you know what? There's also script issues. I'm sure it's not 100% the directing. I'm sure it also comes down to the script. But if you want to put yourself in the best position possible to succeed, You go out and get a director and not a writer producer who's been around these movies and goes, hey, I've kind of watched all these directors do their job. I think I could do it. Yeah, why not give it a shot? Oh, yeah, give me $150 million to do this. I'll give it a whirl, see what happens. Yeah. So X-Men Dark Phoenix, again, we'll wait to see how the movie turns out. Maybe it's awesome, but all accounts are saying it sounds like it's going to suck. So we've been going for about 20 minutes now, and we have a lot of stuff in the chat. So let's go through and take a look at what some of this says. Rob Jaginta, the fuck? It's 5:40. Why so late? Mic issues. Yeah, I apologize. Thoughts on Serenity? I have not seen Serenity yet. That's one I would like to see because I am hearing a lot of interesting things about it, especially about the twist, which I don't know anything about. But the movie's bombing. I saw it made just under $5 million opening weekend, and I think it's a record low for both Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway, which is disappointing to hear. But it doesn't sound like people are really liking the movie too much. I forget. It's like probably, I think 30s or something on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't know off the top of my head. But yeah, I mean, I would be interested in seeing it at some point. But yeah, it's not looking too good right now. Long title. I think you're probably talking about the Ted Bundy movie. See, immediately I forget it. Extremely, extremely wicked, something vile, something evil, incredibly evil. I don't know. They should have changed it. That was ridiculous. What's your favorite serial killer, Bundy of Dahmer? I'd say, Bundy or Dahmer. I'd say Dahmer for my own weird reasons. There was a movie about Dahmer not too long ago. I didn't get to see it. I forget what it's called. It was something Dahmer, but I remember that came out. Rob Jaginta, I had a buddy who thought Aquaman wouldn't make over 500 million. What an idiot, am I right? Your thoughts? I was that idiot. Rob Jaginta in the group chat. If you're unaware, he is a co-host on the show. He does a lot of the podcasts and stuff. Yeah, about a year ago when Justice League came out in November of 2017, right after it came out, I said that I did not think Aquaman. I said, well, here's what I said. I said if Aquaman makes on Rotten Tomatoes gets below 75%, which means that it's not getting great reception. It's not. They're not saying, oh, it's Wonder Woman level. It's 75%. Not everyone's loving it. I said that if it got below 75%, I did not think it would make more than 550 million worldwide. And what happened? It got like a 63 on Rotten Tomatoes, and it made like over $1 billion worldwide. So yeah, I was dead wrong on that. But to be fair, I don't think anyone expected Aquaman to make as much as it did. But yeah, I was completely dead wrong on that. The same guy also didn't like Dunkirk. To me, it's a masterpiece. But hey, what do I know? It's not like it get nominated for Best Picture. Yeah, I mean, and I think the follow-up is from Rich Reviews. How can you hate Dunkirk? So I wouldn't say I hate Dunkirk. I think that's a little bit too strong. I didn't like it. And I think for me, my issues with Dunkirk is that I think from a technical level, the movie is a fucking masterpiece. In terms of how they orchestrated the whole thing and made all these big set pieces come to life, and how they literally recreated the entire battle with real authentic planes and everything like that. I thought all that was fantastic. It's a great experience. But the problem for Dunkirk with me is that I felt like they went with a purposeful decision and direction to not focus on any of the actual characters, and you're just along with these nameless, faceless people for the ride. And I think for some people that worked, but for me, it was hard for me to get into the movie and get into the stakes of what was going on because I didn't have any characters to latch onto. And I thought the whole timeline of how you had the 3 different times and one was like 10 days, one was a week, and one was like an hour, something along those lines. Whatever it was, the different timelines and it cutting between them, that got confusing because, for me at least, because I couldn't actually figure out which character was which. And so we would be in one timeline, and I thought that we're on with one character, and then it would cut to the timeline with the character that I thought we were just in, and I'd be like, oh wait, shit. So wait, that's the person I thought that was. I Yeah, and it completely went over my head. So I think the fact that they didn't really focus on any of the characters, and they weren't even characters, they were literally just faces of people, and they were running around on screen. That was hard to get into, for me at least. And the timeline thing, it felt unnecessary for this kind of story. It felt like Christopher Nolan trying to Christopher Nolanize a movie that didn't need to be Nolanized. It didn't need to have all these different timelines cutting between them. It felt like he was just trying to like, oh, well, I'm Nolan, and I don't do things in linear time, so let's switch things up. It didn't need to be like that. So again, the craft of it and everything like that, brilliant. I just had a hard time getting into the story and the characters and all that. And so it's a movie that I would not go as far to say as I hate it, but it's definitely lower on my list of favorite Nolan films. Um, Rich Reviews says Sam Mendes is doing a war movie called 1917. I heard a little bit about 1917. I don't know too much about it. I just heard that that is going to be happening. I'm definitely interested. I like Sam Mendes as a director. And war movies interest me when they're done right. I think there's some war movies that are just kind of boring, but then when you get into really interesting war movies and you really get into the reasons for the war and kind of the morality of it and some of the politics of it. I think Hacksaw Ridge is like one of my favorite war movies. It just came out a few years ago. It's my favorite movie of 2016, directed by Mel Gibson. That movie is phenomenal. And I thought the reason why it works so well is because you get so into the character that Andrew Garfield is playing. It's not so much just about, oh, explosions, boom, bang, all that stuff. And that is certainly in there and it has elements, but that's not what the movie's about. The movie is about Andrew Garfield's character and his kind of inner struggle with his spirituality and his morals and all that, and how they come in conflict with the nature of war. I thought the movie was so great because of the deep character work they do with Andrew Garfield. So I like war movies, I would say, but I like it when it's rooted in character. And I think going back to what I was saying about Dunkirk, I think that was one of the things that made it just kind of go, whatever. Is because I feel like there's a lot of great action, and I think it's cool, but it wasn't rooted in anything, and so it gave me less of a reason to care about it. Rich Reviews also writes, Roland Emmerich is doing Battle of Midway. I haven't heard of that one. That sounds like it's another war movie. Should be interesting. Roland Emmerich is kind of he has a certain thing he goes for that I'm not a huge fan of. Sometimes it can work, but it feels like he keeps trying to make 90s movies, and we're past the 90s. So I'll be interested. I'll wait for a trailer. I'll say that. Um, let's see. If there was a biopic made about your life, who should play you? I don't know. I don't know because I mean, what have I accomplished? Sitting in my dorm room, recording something on a mic, live streaming it for 3 people. I'm not really sure what I have accomplished thus far. Talk to me in 20, 30 years, and maybe then I'll be like, you know what? I think I've accomplished enough for a biopic. I choose this actor. Um, but for right now, I don't really know who would play me. Because if it was at this period of my life, then I would need someone who's early 20s as an actor. Yeah, I can't really think of it off the top of my head, but I'll get back to you if I think of anyone. Uh, let's see, Rob Jaginta. Ghostbusters and the Nolan movie come out in the same month as Morbius. Yeah, wow. Oh yeah, that's another thing that it came out a few days ago. Jason Reitman, the son of Ivan Reitman, who directed the first Ghostbusters movie, he is going to be doing a new Ghostbusters movie coming out July 2020. July 2020 seems like a hot month for movies right now. That I'm actually looking forward to. The 2016 Ghostbusters, I had a lot of problems with it. I'd say if it was just between whether I liked it or didn't like it, I would say I liked it. But I mean, I didn't think it was anything fantastic. I thought the writing was kind of subpar. I thought the performances were fine. I did not like Kate McKinnon. I know for a lot of people, Kate McKinnon was the best part of that movie. I couldn't stand her in that movie. And generally, like at least with SNL and stuff, I'm a fan of hers. With her movies, she doesn't. She's the problem with Kate McKinnon is I feel like she keeps trying to do SNL characters in every movie that she's in, and that doesn't always work. And I thought that was very much the case in Ghostbusters. I'm very interested just because I love Jason Reitman as a director. I think he's a phenomenal director, and anytime he's got a new movie coming, I'm going to be interested and I'm going to see it. And I think him doing Ghostbusters is going to be really interesting. So I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it, and I'm curious to see what he does with it. Rich reviews: Dump Dark Phoenix to Netflix. Maybe. I don't think they would ever go for that because I think they know that if they put Dark Phoenix out in theaters, they'll definitely make their money back. They're not going to do, it's not going to be $1 billion film or anything like that, but I think they'll probably earn their money back on Dark Phoenix. Netflix, I don't think that's so much the case, unless if Dark Phoenix is willing to pay like $250 million for the movie. I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll see. Let's see. I think Fox knows that if they put it out in theaters, it's going to make some money. It's got the X-Men name attached to it. You've got James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, Jennifer Lawrence, all these huge stars. I don't think it matters what it gets on Rotten Tomatoes. There are going to be people who go see it regardless. You, me, all of us comic book fans, it does not matter if the movie has a 2% on Rotten Tomatoes. We're still going to go see X-Men Dark Phoenix regardless. So I think Fox knows that if they put it out in theaters, it's going to make them some money. And it'll hopefully break them even. It might even make them a little bit of money. But yeah, I think for Netflix to acquire that, they would have to pay something like 250, 300, maybe even 350, 400 million. Because in order for Fox to sell to Netflix, Netflix is going to have to pay them either the amount or more of what Fox thinks they could make in theaters. So it's going to cost Netflix a lot to get Dark Phoenix. I don't think Netflix is going to pay that much for something like Dark Phoenix, nor do I think Fox would settle for something lower than what they think they could get in theaters. So I wouldn't be betting on Dark Phoenix making it onto Netflix, but I mean, depending upon how good the actual movie is, it might have been the smarter move. Rob Giginta, I think he wrote the script too. That sounds like probably you're talking about Kinberg for Dark Phoenix. Yeah, that's unfortunate. I think Kinberg's been a little hit or miss. He's helped to write some of the great X-Men movies. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I thought he was probably involved in Apocalypse, which wasn't the greatest. I mean, Apocalypse wasn't a train wreck. It wasn't as bad as The Last Stand or X-Men Origins Wolverine, in my opinion. But Apocalypse, especially coming off of Days of Future Past, it wasn't the greatest thing, or at least not as good as it should have been. When you consider everyone that was involved. So yeah, Kinberg was probably involved in the script for Apocalypse, and I'm sure he, as you put it, Rob, he probably was involved in the script for Dark Phoenix. So yeah, maybe it was something that putting all the responsibility of writing the movie, producing the movie, and directing the movie all on him. Maybe that was a little unfair of Fox, and maybe that just put too much of a strain on him, and the result is a shitty movie. So I think we're gonna have to wait until we see Dark Phoenix to know for sure where the problems are. Maybe we watch it and we realize, hey, the script is completely the problem. The directing was completely fine. That wasn't the issue. And then we'll have a separate conversation, or maybe we'll realize the script is great. Kinberg wrote a great script. Just the direction he completely dropped the ball. Or maybe it has nothing to do with Kinberg. We'll have to wait and see the film until we can really do a full assessment. Rob Jaginta, as a wise man once said, if I was a doctor, I'd be telling Dark Phoenix to get his affairs in order. Yep. Dark Phoenix, things are not going to be good for that movie. That's another one that's coming out. First, it was supposed to come out in November of 2018. Then it was moved to February 2019, and now it's June or July 2019. It's not. Maybe they're hoping to benefit off of maybe like Endgame or any of these bigger comic book movies coming out in the earlier part of the summer to give them a boost when X-Men comes out. But yeah, I don't think X-Men's going to be doing very well at the box office or critically. We'll have to see. Rich reviews. It's called My Friend Dahmer. It made my top 10 list. Yes, that was the name of it. My Friend Dahmer. I remember co-host Rob. He saw it, and that was in his top 10. It was one I wanted to see, but I didn't get a chance to see it. I heard really good things about it. I wish I could have seen it though. And hopefully, if it comes up on like Amazon or something, maybe I'll get a chance to watch it. Uh, Rob says, good movie, saw it. Cole and Randy, good guys. Cole and Randy are friends of ours. They were actually on our 2018 Movie Paradise Awards. They were the panel that Rob and I crafted our nominations, and then we presented it to them, the panel, and we came up with the nominations together before deciding the winners. Randy and Cole were also on the School of Rock episode of Movie Night Tonight. So they have made their Movie Paradise debut. And if you're interested in checking those out, they're up on the channel. Rob says, most anticipated February release. What comes out in February? Honestly, I don't even know. And you know what? I am going to look it up right now. Why not, right? February 2019 movies. Lego Movie comes out. I remember that now. I have not seen the first Lego Movie, which I own. Let's see. I have the first Lego Movie, LL. I have Lego Movie and Lego Batman movie. So I will be doing my research. I did see Lego Batman in theaters. So I've already seen that one, but I never saw the first Lego Movie. But before Lego Movie 2, the second part, whatever it's called, before that one comes out, I will be doing my research and watching the first Lego Movie. What else do we have in February? What Men Want. That's the Taraji P. Henson movie. That's the remake of the Mel Gibson one, What Women Want. Funny story. So, funny side note. So I was in the theater, and I forget what movie I was seeing. It might have been Aquaman. It was either Bumblebee or Aquaman. I'm sitting in the theater, and there's this guy next to me, and there was a whole bunch of problems going on through the movie. But anyways, we're watching the trailer for What Men Want, and it gets to the very end of the trailer, and the title pops up, What Men Want, and he leans over to his friend. He's like, "Hey, that kind of reminds me of that Mel Gibson movie, What Women Want." It's like, mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it definitely does. Oh, and what a coincidence that's called What Men Want as opposed to What Women Want. And what a coincidence that it's the exact same plot, but with a woman now. Wow, that's such a coincidence. Wow. Anyways, oh, sorry about that. That's timer for my laundry, but we're in the middle of a live show and we're gonna get this done before I worry about my laundry. Who cares about my laundry? Anyways, yeah, so What Men Want, that's coming out. It could be interesting. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. Lord of Chaos. This looks vaguely familiar. I don't really remember it though. The Prodigy, I've heard some things about it. It's a February horror movie. Who knows? Hold out and see. Lego Movie Part 2 or second part, whatever it's called. They should just call it Lego Movie 2. But yeah, like I said, I'll do some research and I'll see that. Cold Pursuit. Cold Pursuit seems interesting because the trailer does kind of make it out to be it's the next Taken movie that's not Taken with Liam Neeson. But the reviews are coming out. They seem like they're pretty good. The director is interesting. So who knows? That one might actually be one worth seeing. Isn't It Romantic? Oh, that's the Rebel Wilson one, the romantic comedy. So this one could be interesting. I love the premise. I think the premise is really cool. I don't think the movie's going to actually be that good, but we'll see. Happy Death Day to You. I will be watching the first Happy Death Day before I see this one, but right now I'm not that interested in Happy Death Day to You. But after I see the first one, and I will be seeing this one in theaters once it comes out, but maybe after I see the first one, I'll be more excited for it. Fighting with My Family, the Dwayne Johnson wrestling movie, and I don't think that looks that good. How to Train Your Dragon 3. I never saw the first How to Train Your Dragon. I saw the second one. I really like it. I'm not actively looking forward to the third one, but I'll see it and I'm interested in it when it comes out. Is that really it? Wow. February is kind of lacking. So let's see. We have How to Train Your Dragon 3, Fighting with My Family, Death Day, Cold Pursuit, Lego Movie. I'd say my most anticipated is probably either How to Train Your Dragon. You know what? I'm gonna go Lego Movie. Lego Movie is my most anticipated, and I think it's probably gonna end up being the best movie that comes out. So, and that's with me not even seeing the first Lego Movie. But I'll say Lego Movie Part 2 is my most anticipated. Let's see. Uh, Lord of Chaos is a death metal movie. I don't know. I feel like I've heard of it before, but I don't know. So, anyways, that is going to conclude this episode of Film Thoughts. Yeah, I gotta, as you could tell from when my alarm went off, I do have to go get my laundry. I don't really want anyone to steal it from the dryer, so I will have to go attend that. But anyways, thanks for joining us for this installment of Film Thoughts. I'm going to be trying to figure out in the coming weeks. I want to have 2 set days every week that it's going to come out on this day. We're going to be doing it live at this time and this time on those days, so that we don't have any of this, hey, spontaneously, hey, you have 10 minutes to come join a live chat. I want you to be able to know in advance when it's going to happen, so you can kind of plan your day around it if you so choose to join us for the live chat. But anyways, thanks for joining us for this installment of Film Thoughts. Once again, I am your host, Nathanael Molnár. You can make sure to like, comment, subscribe for more content. Be sure to follow us on all of our various social medias at Movie Paradise 99. Thanks, everyone, for joining us.